WireGuard, for the people who don't know, who haven't heard of it before, WireGuard is, and I'm going to tell you my remedial understanding of things, and then you've got smart guys in the chat, Frank and Luma, and some of these guys that know a lot more can give you more details. But in my basic understanding of it, it's a VPN. Why do you want it? Why do I want it? Well, I want to be able to connect to my home network when I'm at work so that I can tweak things. I want to be able to get into my Home Assistant files and mess with things, get directly into Sonoffs or other Tasmota devices or whatever. I like having a VPN into the house. It's really handy. IP cameras, there's all kinds of things that you can do. And even like if somebody's having a problem, my wife's having a problem or something's not working, by being able to VPN into the house, it's like I'm sitting at my desk right here and I can just start figuring out what's wrong and where it went wrong. To do that with just an open port is a bad idea. I was using OpenVPN, which was pretty good, but we talked a couple days ago about why WireGuard is better than OpenVPN. And probably the biggest reason is that OpenVPN is still, even though it should be very secure, for a savvy hacker, it is still vulnerable. People can still, they can find out that you're using OpenVPN on your network by pinging specific ports, and they'll get a response from OpenVPN. WireGuard, on the other hand, will not give a response unless what you're sending at it is from WireGuard. And it has to recognize exactly what it is that's coming in, or it won't respond. It makes it even more secure than OpenVPN. When you look at how big the program is in like lines of code, most of the VPNs are hundreds of thousands of lines of code. So very complicated. A lot of it's dated. A lot of it's really old, based on stuff, encryption stuff from a long time ago, decades ago. WireGuard is very new and it's very small. It's like 4,000 lines of code. It's very small. It's almost as small as my YAML file. So another thing that I've discovered yesterday about it that I really enjoyed is that when I use WireGuard to log into my home network from my laptop, I don't want all my internet traffic to go through the VPN and then through my home network to Google or YouTube or whatever, because we've got a limited amount of data allowance from our internet provider. And if we go over that, they charge us more money. So I would rather do my basic surfing and, watching Frank's streams and such on the hospital's data line than instead of my own when I can. And with OpenVPN, everything went through the home network. So when I was connected to OpenVPN, it was like my laptop was sitting in my house. And everything that I accessed from the laptop was accessed through my home network, from here out to wherever. Well, with WireGuard, you can set it so that it does the same. You can make WireGuard so that it will act the same way if you wanted to. Some people want to hide their internet traffic. I don't want to say that like it's a bad thing, but you don't, maybe your work blocks certain sites and you want to be able to access those sites. And so then you want to tunnel into your home network and then be able to access your different sites. So you can do that with WireGuard. But if you don't set it specifically to do that, then it will only act as a VPN for the traffic that goes directly to other IP addresses in your home network. So what that means is when I'm at work and I've got WireGuard working, if I go to YouTube, it goes through the hospital's network. If I put in the IP address of my Home Assistant machine, then it uses WireGuard and goes to that IP address of my Home Assistant machine and only uses it for that connection. So for me, that's great because that means I just leave it on all the time, and I don't have to worry about watching a video and using up all my data. So that's pretty cool. And then I haven't been leaving it on my phone, but I suppose I could do that as well if I wanted to. What I'm explaining is called a split tunnel. Oh, cool, perfect. And I would love that on the phone. That would be ideal for the phone, because then the only time that it would use this tunnel, the WireGuard tunnel, would be when I'm accessing like the Home Assistant app. And everything else that I want to do, Google Maps and who knows what, would all be through my regular data on the phone. Beautiful. But there is a way you can set it so that it will do a single, I guess would be a unified tunnel or a single tunnel, right? There's a setting for that too. So we'll go through that. Right now, what I'll go through, I'll do a basic manual setup of WireGuard on a Raspberry Pi. The way I've got it running is I've got a Raspberry Pi sitting by the desk here, and its sole purpose is to run the VPN. I installed this morning Raspbian on just fresh install of Raspbian Stretch, I think, on a Raspberry Pi 3. I put the SSH file in the boot folder so that you can SSH in. I got the SSH up, and then I just did sudo apt-get update and then upgrade. And so I'm just waiting for the upgrade to finish, and then we're going to have a fresh install to work from. If you go to the WireGuard website, they have all the different kinds of installations. You can install it on everything except, I guess, Windows still, right? But here's all the different kinds of operating systems coming soon for Windows. Adrian is a master, and this is available right here for everybody to follow along at home. And if you just Google search Raspberry Pi WireGuard, this is the first thing that pops up, and it's like 3 days old. So how about that? This is so slick and so nice and built for dudes like me that we could just copy and paste. There we go. Start with that. So all we're doing here is, this is kernel headers. Now we're just going to do this. We're just going to grab this whole big echo line here. Next line, we're going to install dir manager. Okay, so now we're going to go grab this key server. We're going to run this key server command. Gotta say, I don't know exactly what that does. Now we're gonna run this, and I guess what we're doing here is we're allowing the installation of some unstable parts. Now I've got to do another update, but I don't have to do an upgrade here. This is just to update the list of packages, right? Very, very handy. Okay, so now we're on the step where we are going to install WireGuard. So apt-get WireGuard. Bum ba bum. Do I want to continue? For show. All right, so we got WireGuard installed. We're going to do a reboot. Boom. Okay, we're back. So now we're going to run this, and this is going to set up our IP forwarding something Linux magic. And there it goes. Done. I'll reboot again. Okie dokie. All right, so we just did this reboot. Now we're going to check and make sure that it is working, that we've got our net IPv4 IP forward working. Moment of truth number 1. Yes! Okay. I'm not surprised at all, Adrian. Not surprised at all. I knew it was going to work. Configure WireGuard. Okay, so there's 2 ways to set up WireGuard clients. Manually, which is what we're going to do now, or through this semi-automatic, which sounds like a gun, semi-automatic mode via WireGuard user management script. So this is Adrian's fancy script that I used as well, and it's very fun. It's easy. It's nice. It's nice because you can take a picture. So what I'd like to do today, depending on time, is we'll go through this manual setup, but then we'll run this. We'll do this also. We'll run this script we'll back up a little bit, and then we'll run this script to use that, because I think if I was going to do it by, with like actually do it again, this is probably what I would do, because I liked being able to set up the client by just taking a snapshot of the QR code was very handy. All right, but since we're not going to do that today, or not going to do that right now, we're going to do it the long way. Okay, so the next thing we need to do is we need to generate our keys, generate our private and public keys. These are new keys. They're small keys, and they're going to be deleted as soon as we're done with the stream. So you can, if anybody wants to try and hack, they're going to have a very small window of time to be able to jump in, because obviously these are not my real keys that I'm really using. All right, so now we've made this keys directory, and now we're going to use keygen, which is a WireGuard command, I suppose, and we're going to set up the key for server private. Okay, server private.key. And it says, hey, this is going to be accessible to the world. That's okay. That's okay. And the way Adrian did this script, or these directions, really nice, because he shows you here in blue what you're going to see on the screen. So if you see what he's shown here, then you're in good shape. Now we're going to make a public key. So the way that WireGuard does this, we're going to do this pub key command. It's going to make the public key based on server private key. And now we're going to make a client. We're going to make client number 1 key. So we've got our 2 server keys, public and private server keys. And now we're going to make a client key, private one first, and then based on the private key, it will make a public key. All right, so now here's the part where we take the private key and we create the public key. Generate the public key from the private key. I'm sorry, not the other way around. Thank you. Thank you. Cha-cha-cha. Done. And now when we ls, we'll see that there are now 4 files here. Client 1 private, client 1 public, server private, and server public. Success. All right. Now is when Adrian gets his bottle out. What we're going to do now is we're going to look at the contents of these keys. We're going to actually open up these keys and look inside. So we'll use cat, which is a command that just lets us print what's there. And there it goes. Drink up, Adrian. Now what you want to do is you want to save these someplace because we're going to need to paste them in someplace else. So I'm just going to simply open a notepad. All right, so I'm just going to grab this whole thing, Control C, and hopefully it will take it, paste it all in. Great. So I want to know that this is the server public key. And there it is, server public key. Okay. I'm going to do that now just to get them all. So we're going to do cat, and then we'll do private. And then we're going to do the client 1 private. And then, so I now have 4 unique keys, 2 for the server and 2 for the client. Now we're going to set up the WireGuard interface on the server. We're going to edit our configuration file for our server. So we'll copy this line here. This is how we're telling WireGuard what it needs to know to be able to run on the server. And it's such a short, like the configuration file is this. That's it. So you grab all this, copy it, paste it into Nano over here. So now there's a couple places here where we need to replace something with something else. So we're going to go up here first and do the server private key. So we're going to erase that, and we'll go over here and get our server private key right there, copy, and paste it in. Now we do the client public key. So we have the server private key and the client public key in this file because this is the one that's on the server. And then this allowed IPs. This should be a safe one to use. This just can't be whatever your home network subnet is, right? So you should be able to leave that. I don't think anybody's going to have 192.168.99. So this should be fine. You should be able to leave this as is. And then this is assigning the IP address of the server, right? And we're doing it on this same subnet. What we want to do is make sure that when this client gets one, that it's not getting the same one. So we use this one as number 1 and this one as number 2. Sound good? Okay, so I think we're done. Unless anybody says I'm missing something. This is the part where getting distracted can be deadly. But I think we're good. So now I'm just going to Control X. And do I want to save it? Yes, I do. And I want to save it as wg0.conf. And done. And that's it. Like the server is set up. That was the entire configuration. That's it for the server. So we start it with wg quick up, and we tell it which configuration, the wg0. So that's it. This is the command that you'll use to start it up every time. So if you ever had to turn it off and turn it back on, you use wg quick up to turn it on, wg quick down to turn it off. And there it goes. I don't see any errors. Now we're going to check to see if it's working. So we'll just do wg, sudo wg, and it's working. There's our keys. Everything's good. It hides the private keys at this point. Now we can launch at startup automatically, which is good. We want that. So we're going to copy this line so that it will start every time we fire up the Pi. Done. Now set up clients. Example configuration. So this is an example if you're using something else. Like we were using my MacBook Pro, so we had to do it differently, and we set up the client configuration in this way. But the important thing to look at is how this is structured, because if you're doing this on a different machine instead of on the phone, then you'll need to make a configuration similar to what we just did. You go through the rest of the steps, you install WireGuard, get to this point, and you create the configuration file, and you put this stuff in there. So we said that the client could be 2 up. So this one's going to be 2. That's our interface. That's this device that we're working on. This client is going to be 2. Then we will paste in here the client 1 private key. And then for the endpoint, this will be your home IP public address. So you could just put your IP address in there, your public IP address. It can change. So if it changes, then you won't be able to connect. So this is a time where you use DuckDNS again. So go get a DuckDNS address, and that's what will go here. This is the port, and then you will paste in from the notepad the server public key. So now we will have used all 4 of those keys, and then tell this one the allowed IP address. So this is a good example. Now let's do it. Let's actually do it here. So now we're going to go into the WireGuard app, and we are just going to add a new client. So we hit the plus, and we're going to do it from scratch because we're doing things the long way. All right. So give it a name. This is going to be stream private key. Now, so the one I need is this is the client private key, correct? And we can look over here and make sure, yes, client private key. Okay, client public, this is client private. So that's the one I want. We'll go here and we'll paste. Yes! All right, did it. What you can see here is that we put the private key in and it generated the public key. And if you looked in detail at this public key, it's actually the same as this. So now we go back down, next part, the address of this client. So the IP address is going to be in our configuration right here. So that's what we're going to put in here. You guys can't see it, but I think this part's done. Now we're going to do add peer. We're going to do the public key, and that's our server public key. So go back to our notepad. Let me move this over here. Okay, server public key. We're in the peer. We're going to paste it right there. That's that. Shared is fine. Okay, so then endpoint. The endpoint is where you're going to put your DuckDNS. So what I've got for mine for today is WG demo. And then, do I have to do the port? Yes, I have to do the port. And then allowed IPs. We get this from the configuration as well. 68991/32. And then this part, this next part, this is your home subnet. The subnet of my devices in my home is 192.168.1. whatever. If yours is different, you want to put your home network subnet in there. You can see I put it in right here. First 3 octets. Oh yes, the first 3 octets. I sound smart saying that. I think we're done. Once you have a VPN like this set up, you start finding uses for it. You start realizing how convenient it is to be able to get into your entire home network and essentially have your remote connection function as if you were in the home. We're going to save it. So then the last thing that I need to do is open a port on my router. So whatever router you have, you need to open a port. So this is what I've got right here. This is the one I've been working on. Whatever, you can look up how you do it on your router. Essentially, this is the port that you need to open on this machine. I think we're about done with the setup. I think we can probably give it a test. My guess is, just based on the way things generally go, that when we first fire this up and try and test it, it's not going to work, right? We'll give it a go. Stream 1, we just fire it up like that. The trick is I'm going to have to actually leave my home. So I'm going to turn off my Wi-Fi so that it's not connected in my network. And then to test, we're going to use ping, and we'll ping an IP address in my house. I will be, like I said, quite surprised if it actually works. Hey. Now, the port is forwarded. The Wi-Fi is off on the phone. Okay, now we're going to ping. Okay, if you have fingers, cross them. Yes! Yes! We did it! We did it! It is working. You see that? You can see? Ping, 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 ping. Yes! I want to talk about what we just did, the troubleshooting steps. So what we had to troubleshoot, we opened the configuration file on the server and we checked the keys. We needed to check that I had them in the right places. Because I made that mistake before. I've made a lot of mistakes before. But make sure that your keys are in the right places, that you didn't accidentally put, because this is what I did the first time I walked through this. Here, this is supposed to be a public key, but I accidentally copied in the private key right here, or something like that, right? I copied this in there, and so why I want to connect? Well, because, again, the knucklehead put this in there. Adrian says, check the ports, check the IP, check everything again. Okay, so make sure that your keys are in the right places. both in your configuration on your server and in your configuration on your client, which in this case was on the phone. So double check with this list that the private keys are in the right place and the public keys are in the right place. All right, step one. Number two, make sure you've got your port forwarding set up correctly. There's three places where you can mess that up. You can mess that up in your configuration on the server. You can mess that up in your configuration on the client, and you can mess that up in your router. And I managed to do two of those three. So IPs, make sure you're allowed IP addresses, which are going to show up again in their configuration on your client and in the configuration on your server. The other thing was in the endpoint being the duck DNS address or your home IP address. Make sure that when you do the endpoint is kind of the target, right, of your client. So when you are looking at your client, you want to make sure that whatever your endpoint is, that it really is pointing to your home IP address. So if you want to not have the split in under allowed IPs, if at the end of this I were to add 000/0 in the allowed IPs on the client, all the traffic will be directed through this interface. So that would take away that split traffic or split tunneling that Luma called it, right? So as I've got it set up, the only things that will route through the tunnel are when I put in one of the IP addresses of my house. But what if I put google.com, it goes to Google directly from my phone using my data from the phone and the connection from the phone directly. It doesn't go through the house first. If right here I add comma space 0.0.0.0/0, save that. Now, if you want all your Google searching and all of your YouTube watching and your online banking to be routed through your home before it goes out to wherever it's going, then you want that at the end of your client allowed IP addresses. And that will make everything, now all your traffic will tunnel through your home and then out to wherever it's going. Cool? Cool? How did we do? We got it working, which is a miracle in itself. Not really. With a guy like Adrian helping, it's not a miracle. It is not a miracle. Santa is going to be so good to Adrian. We're going to do it again. Well, we're not going to go through all that again. It's not going to take nearly as much time. But one way to make sure that you don't have the potential typos is to use the script, which will let us set up a client with a QR code. Ooh, yeah. So we're going to set up a client with a QR code. We can go now follow this guide instead. WireGuard User Management Script is a simple WireGuard user management script using a VPN server, client config file. QR codes are generated. Dun, 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 dun. Okay. In order to use this user management script, we're going to install gRenCode. Excellent, excellent. So if I was going to do this, like for myself, as a fresh start again, this is actually what I would do instead of going through manually. And that only because it saves me the possibility of making simple mistakes, which is what we just did that screwed all that up. Now we're going to clone this file from Adrian's repository, the WG config. There it goes, cloning. And we see we've got the same message there. Mine says 23. This example said 17, not a big deal. All right, so now we're going to change the directory to our new WG config. And now we're going to generate keys. We're going to do this whole line, which is going to run the gen key, and it's going to generate the keys that we need. These are going to be new keys, not the keys that we used on the last one. We did those two things, and now we're going to edit the server details. Okay, so now we've got a new server private and server public key. Now we are going to copy the sample WG-def as the regular WG-def, and then we're going to edit WG-def. We do need to paste in our server public key and our server private key. We're going to copy this, and this one is the public key. Make sure you get these in the right place. Public key, public key. Now we do the private, same one. So you see this, I left a big old mess right here. And then the server port, it's going to grab it from right there. So now we're ready. Let's try that again. We're going to edit this client conf template. And then again, so this is the virtual network IP address with the subnet here. This is my home subnet. So if yours is different, you want yours here. And then if you want to have it be split tunnel, meaning only connections to local IP addresses on your home network go through this tunnel, then you leave it as it is. If you want it to be all your traffic, then you can do the 000 whatever /0 like that. We'll do that this time. All right, and then I think that's it. These things are going to fill in variables that it will generate, so we don't have to do anything else with those. We just needed to put in the allowed IP addresses. Control X. Yes. All right. Bum, 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 bum. We need to generate a configuration file, but we don't need to put anything in it. Or we set up this WG0 conf. It's empty right now. There's nothing in it, but we had to touch it so that there was something there, or else the next step wouldn't work. So we say we're going to start it up, and there we go. We started it up, but our configuration is blank currently. And if we do sudo wg, we know it's running. And don't worry about this port. This is a random thing. This doesn't matter. So we do that. Now we're going to add our first user. This is the funness. We take this, which is going to run this user script, I guess is what it is, right? Now, bong, 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 bong. See, in my head blocked the QR code, so you guys can't even copy it. So now we're going to go in here, and we're going to add with the plus, and then we can create from QR code. Hello. If this doesn't tear a hole in the internet, nothing will. Again, we're going to call it demo 2. Save it. So now let's see if we can connect, right? We got the port. Let's just see if we can connect. My guess, because it's just the way things go, is that we will hit some sort of a snag, but there's always the potential that we have a little Christmas miracle and an angel gets its wings. Now we're going to go to ping, and the moment of truth. Perfect. Perfect. First time, every time. Yeah. All right, everybody. Pat yourselves on the back. We did it. Adrian, you're the man. You are the man. I cannot thank you enough. So there we go, boys. We have done it. When I was doing this step-by-step guide here, you have to do this part. That doesn't change. You have to do this part. You have to do this. This is just testing. But then when you get to this point right here, you don't have to do any of this other manual stuff if you use the method from this link right here. The method from this link is what we just did, and you don't have to do any of it. The script even sets up the server. We just did that touchwg.conf, and that made a blank configuration file. And then when we ran the script, when we ran that user.sh, it fills in what we wanted in that wg-conf and essentially creates our configuration for the server as well, at the same time as it generates what we need for the client. Done. We did it. We got WireGuard, the next big thing in VPN, which has probably been around for a couple of years already, actually, I think. But anyways, it's running on my laptop now constantly. And I will always, anytime that I am on my laptop, no matter where I am, I can just type in my Home Assistant IP address and I can pop up Home Assistant and start working on it. I can connect to my configuration folder and start tweaking files. I can look at my IP cameras. I can dial up my individual Tasmatized devices from anywhere, anytime. And it's lightweight and it's secure, and it was super easy to set up. It's fantastic. If you have any reason to need to get remote access to your home network, this is a great way to do it.
As always, thanks for watching. Until next time, adios.
I don't know where they get this kind of show-offedness.
I wonder.
wonder where they get it. All right, hey guys, happy Saturday. Tomorrow, start stream same time as this Christmas party, the 12 streams of Christmas. We did it. So have a happy Saturday, everybody. Take care.
I dabbed.
See ya. Grace has dabbed, and now it's officially over. If you like this video and you want to see more like it, this box will take you to a playlist of some of my favorites. In addition to videos like this, I also do live streams every Sunday. This box will take you to a recording of the latest live stream. That's all for now. Adios.